Hello everyone, my name is Donatas URBONUS. I'm the host of the podcast URBONUS, and today I have a very special guest. Once a year or twice sometimes I have something like a basketball spa, something like a basketball festival of talking to one of the best basketball minds in the world. And this time I will share this pleasure with the viewers and listeners of URBONUS podcast. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the general manager of Fenerbahce Istanbul, Maurizio Gherardini.
Labas, Donatas, it's good to be here. It's good to be with you. And again, I'm happy for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the sharing that we might have today.
Yeah, and Maurizio, I won't lie to you. You're really one of the most clever and most thoughtful basketball persons to listen to. And I know very well that you inspire a lot of people, but tell me, who are these minds that inspire you? For example, where do you seek for that inspiration for some basketball ideas, some basketball thoughts? Or it's like you just have that privilege, to make a phone call to somebody and to talk about certain things, and you don't need to wait for some interviews, some podcasts or books to be published.
Well, I think it's because I'm an old guy. I'm saying I witnessed the developments of basketball through 4 decades, and probably I had the chance to build a network of contacts and actually real friendships when it was not so technological. It was probably closer on a human level, and you know that I'm not very technological, so I did whatever it was possible to follow up on the contacts that actually helped me growing through this business of basketball, and I feel like I've been extremely lucky. I've been extremely lucky because not only I had a chance to work in incredible places, whether it was my hometown or Benetton or NBA or Fenerbahce, but I also had a chance to meet and work with very, very special people, coaches, players, that executives, presidents that really impacted my life. This morning I was, talking to some young people, lecturing, and I gave him a first statement by reminding what a friend like Steve Nash said the night that he was enshrined in the Basketball Hall of Fame. He tried to explain that the secret of all this is living our passion, our love for the game. Giving everything we have, and to the point that then we should be so enthusiastically living our passion that most of the time we don't even have a balance to really, control our craziness for our passion, But usually we find the balance as we get older, And I got older, but I still cannot find that balance. And he said, the thing that you miss most when you finish to live a playing career, in his case, is the fact that you're going to be missing the opportunity to give 100% on a daily basis. You're going to miss the fact that every day you are striving for the best. You're trying to be the best. You're fighting to improve. And in our cases, we're fighting for make our organization better, or to be more creative, or to improve our chances to be successful. And I still approach the game of basketball that way, and I feel the privilege of having the network of the people that have, mentor me through the years. And I always tell young people, networking is fundamental in anything that you do in life, but especially, again, we're talking about the business of basketball. how you grow your career, and it's very important to take care of your contacts, to take care of your relationship, but to take care in a way that the other side understands that you really care about that relationship. It's not just a checklist that you check on a daily basis. No, there has to be a deep sense of friendship, of curiosity, of need for a suggestion or for help. And again, I try to live my basketball life following this, let's say, desire of keeping my relationship as deep and alive as possible. And I think at the end of the day, I had the privilege to enjoy, I don't want to say all of them for all these years, but most of them for all these years.
Yeah, you mentioned a very good point about mentoring people, and it seems like that you're in that kind of point of your life and your career that usually you're the one who's mentoring somebody, and a lot of basketball people look at you as a mentor. But can you mention? Do you still have? I mean, what kind of mentors of yourself you're still looking for? Who would you call your mentors right now?
Well, I think there are special people in your life that have impacted you and in different moments. So again, if I go through the years, definitely my first president on my hometown team, it was a famous surgeon and not a real basketball guy, but he told me many things about the sense of life, or how to interpret people and judge people and get the most out of people. But I remember, Mr. Porrelli in Bologna was a very special person to talk basketball to. I remember other people from that impact my, let's say, my career, because the sharing was deep sharing. I mean, I could say R.C. Buford, I could say Zeljko Obradovic, I could say, in a way, Jordi Bertomeu. What I'm saying is people that, and there have been many of them, right now, it's not easy to list all of them. And, but as I said before, it's very important how you live this relationship, how much you are open in the sharing. And I had many special people in my basketball career, and I owe them a lot, because I always try to live every day with the assumption that I can learn something every day. So I think the most important side of someone who wants to grow in this sort of profession is to be curious about everything we do. To the sense of curiosity is very important to follow every aspect of the basketball business. And again, being open to learn something every day, because it's impossible to know all the answers, and that's truly impossible.
Yeah, I mentioned that you look weird at people, and especially at coaches who has all the answers. You mentioned it in one of your podcasts that if the coach knows all the answers, something is wrong with that coach.
Definitely, it's impossible to know all the answers. And but again, the sense of curiosity, it's important. For example, I also had a very, very special relationship with Mr. Benetton for 15 years. And I kept the relationship even afterwards. And being able to spend, let's say, selective moments with him through a span of 25 years was, for example, very special for me. Because it was not just basketball, was life, was, ideas, was thinking out of the box, was sharing, situation that, don't have anything directly related to basketball, but tell you a lot of how to manage your basketball business, and also tells you a lot about how getting to know people, evaluate people, relationships, and everything.
Talking about the curiosity, a few days ago I asked you to rate your excitement about the upcoming season from 1 to 10. And I cannot say that I expected some different answer. And your answer was 10. So I just, I wish I will be as excited as you before my 41st season in basketball. But what I wanted to ask you, what excites you the most specifically for the upcoming season with Fenerbahce?
I told you, if the answer is not 10, you have a problem. And every season, it brings you something different. And you need to be, let's say, ready to accept the challenge. The challenge is never the same. It's not that every year you have the same goal or the same type of challenge. The challenge changes, year by year. Just like in a season, sometimes you have to follow the results of the team in order to adjust your goals and always to create more motivation, more enthusiasm, and or manage the level of the expectation. But you want that challenge. The beauty of our profession and the beauty of life is accepting the challenge and go for the challenge. So I want to feel the adrenaline of the challenge. I want to feel the adrenaline of trying to reach a goal that I think is reachable based on whatever season or whatever situation we're facing. I am excited about the new season because we change quite a bit. We have many new faces. I watched the team a little bit in practice this first 3 days before they head on to the mountains today, but you can feel good vibes, you can feel enthusiasm. Okay, we're still trying to get to know each other, but I think we have a deeper team, a more physical team. I think each of them has a reason to, let's say, push himself to the limit, because that's what you need to have from every player in order, as a team, to have a better chance to be successful. And again, I feel the excitement. I feel that it's going to be a very challenging season, but I don't want to talk too early, but we could surprise some people.
Okay, yeah, and your summer was busy. You changed kind of, at least 1/3 or almost half of your roster, and it seemed like everything was going, according to the plan. But then your head coach left the team just almost, before the preseason, or at least how your summer was prepared. And instead of, having a time off from basketball, you were kind of, put in an emergency situation. And as you already mentioned, the worst part of it was the timing, because it was July and the head coaching market was pretty dry. But tell me how your first hour or two looked like in such an emergency situation, and how do you try to cope with such unexpected challenges?
Well, having to face an issue like this, the third week of July is very unusual, totally unexpected. Something that, again, on one hand, we understood, what was behind Igor's, let's say, decision or request and his desire to go home, but we also understood very clearly that we had a problem. So we tried to, again, as you mentioned, it's a very difficult time of the year. We try to face the market we tried to the market. I'm talking about the coaches market. We tried to evaluate the option, and my first concern was the fact that we had to, after basically creating a plan, sharing a plan with one driver, having to manage the same plan with the new driver. So we needed to look for the smoothest possible transition, if possible. So in this case, I've known Coach Djordjevic for a long time, but we never look at each other as an employer or an employee, or we never look at each other as an opportunity to, okay, you are going to be potentially a coach on the team I'm running. So it was the first time to really evaluate each other from this perspective. There were some other, let's say, good options on the table. I like the fact that Djordjevic was coming from a very significant season. I like the fact that he has been let's say, a very successful player who knows how to manage a locker room. I like the fact that he had already coached some of the players in our picture, like Bartel, Booker, Guduric. So, and also I liked the fact that we had known each other for a while, and again, it was just a matter of, let's say, making the sharing deeper and from a different angle in order to understand each other needs and each other desires, And I think we were lucky that he was still available on the market after the Italian Championship and whatever happened in Bologna this year, because he definitely did a very, very good job there, even if, let's say, it was a very unusual season for Bologna, the way things happen, especially for his situation. And at the end of the day, I think we favored the best possible transition into managing a group that he did not put together. And again, I think we were lucky to find him available at that point, and so far it's been a very constructive sharing. But again, we all know that the constructive sharing can be better evaluated when the real game starts and the real potential issues are on the table. But right now, we are happy of what we see. We're happy of how the whole situation is developing, relationships and thinking and everything.
I don't know how many job interviews you had before making the final selection, but what do you usually look for in these job interviews with the potential head coaches, and what specifically you were looking for, or at least, let's say, what did you like the most about Sasha, coming to be ready for this position?
Well, I think when you interview someone, you try to understand his vision, understand the way he would like to play, and also understand his needs or his requirements. Because maybe you like a coach, and the first thing he tells you, hey, somebody else designed the team. I don't want this player and this player and this player, and then all of a sudden, it's not only a matter of changing players, but also the matter that maybe you have to reconsider, the old construction, the budget, and everything. So, in this particular situation, was also very important to understand how much a coach would see the current picture that we put together, and how much he accepted the challenge to coach this kind of a team. Because again, in this particular case, this was extremely important, because we did not have at this stage the opportunity to let's say, change the roster again. You said we changed almost half of the roster in 2 months. Then we had to change it again in 3 weeks. It was not possible. So we need to find somebody who was truly convinced of the quality of the group that we put together, because we are convinced to have a good group of guys, and therefore, enjoy the opportunity 100%. And this was, I think, the first requirement. Then, of course, when you sit down with the coach, you want to understand as much as you can what personality he has, how much sharing is capable of doing with you, how much he can, let's say, what kind of relationship you can build with the guy. I always say that I've met very special people in as coaches throughout my career, but of course I have I call it bad habits, because all my time with Obradovic, I felt the privilege of an unbelievable, let's say, sharing, of an unbelievable opportunity to talk basketball 24/7 all year around, and this happened for almost 10 years. So I've been, let's say, used to something that is very, very special and very, very unique. But I think that communication, sharing, idea on how you want to play are the keys of how you evaluate a potential coach for your team.
Personally, I don't know Coach Djordjevic, and you for sure know him better than me. As you mentioned in one of your interviews, you know him almost for 30 years. And but what's interesting that he was almost always your opponent, and especially in Italy, playing for few rivals of Treviso. And sometimes when you consider some important decisions and some important hires, and when you consider all these personalities, sometimes you remember some stories, or some stories just pop out in your mind when you think about a specific person. What story or what experience would describe Coach Djordjevic the best, both as a person and as a specialist?
Well, you're right. I mean, I looked at him for many, many years as an opponent, as a, let's say, big time opponent especially of Benetton, and the rivalry with Fortitudo was the main rivalry that we had. But again, as I said in another occasion, we kind of developed a relationship through the years. He was a player, I was a manager, but never in a situation to really either me having a chance to hire him as a player or eventually as a coach. I always look from different angles. So the conversation was always very, very nice, very smiley, very very light. I kind of follow him when he started his coaching career. I almost felt some hesitancy after the Milano experience. And I remember a story. At the end of the day, he was the last coach of Benetton. He happened to be the last coach of Benetton because of what happened, in those years. I was in Toronto, so I was, living from far away. And I remember that we had we used to have, as you know, in Treviso, Eurocamp, and we always tried to have a special guest to come along with the NBA coaches or the NBA players. So sometimes we had European guest stars. I'm saying Papaloukas rather than Rebraca. And one time it happened, with Sasha, and I told him, you're supposed to talk to these young guys that are on the court, dreaming to become what you have been as a player. They're putting efforts, they're putting dreams out there, and they want to be great players like you were a great player. Now you are switching side. You're a coach. You're starting your career. I want to hear what I almost provoked him. I said, you need to talk to them. And I remember that he was very hesitant. Are you sure? I don't know if I can do this. And I was surprised by how humble he was in the answer, because I was expecting, hey, no problem. Hey, I'll tell him this. This kind of approach. Instead, he was very hesitant, and I had to force him. Hey, you cannot say no. You have to do it. This is for me at Eurocamp, and this and this. We have a tradition of great speakers, so you have to do it. And when he talked to this young man for 20 minutes, I was very surprised by the things that he said, by how he said it, and that's something that stayed in the back of my mind. And then of course you follow somebody's career, like you follow players, you follow coaches, but I thought he had made some good points. I thought he had been very, very open, very passionate, very different from what I expected with him being so hesitant, So it kind of stuck into my mind. Then I think that, he's still in the growing process. I know today is his birthday, so he's even older today, but he's still a young coach in a way, because, at the end of the day, his experience are, let's say, not comparable to guys that have been in the business for 20 or 25 years. It's a young career, but it's a significant career where he has been, especially these last 2.5 years in Bologna. So it's a challenge for him. It's a challenge for us, but I think he has qualities. I think he has something to, let's say, transfer to the players, and I count on his ability to understand the players and connect to the players from a personal standpoint. I had a master like Obradovic, so good at connecting with players, or someone special like Mike D'Antoni was a great guy doing this, finding the key to connect, and that's what I'm expecting more as an element in this situation, his ability to connect to people, his ability to transfer to them, his floor leadership as a former player, or his tricks, his advices on how to face a game situation, how to get the most out of an opportunity. I think communicating and managing a locker room will be his main challenge on one hand, but also his strong point on the other. So in America, you would say he's a player's coach, and I think that's the reality. And again, I don't know what else to add to this picture. I think he has the tools to click with the players.
But again, I don't know if it's only me or Coach Djordjevic looks so different compared to Igor Kokoskov, let's say from the character standpoint. First and foremost, in a way of, let's say, how demanding Djordjevic is, how tough sometimes he can be with his players, even though, as you mentioned, he's more like a player's coach. And I remember you explained how you explained the idea of signing Kokoskov 1 year ago, saying that after Zeljko left, you wanted something new, something out of the box, because you knew that it's impossible to follow the same path like with Zeljko, because it's not going to be better. And, I know that Djordjevic signing was also based on a market situation, but in general, is it fair to say that signing Djordjevic, which, as I said, from the character standpoint, looks like a completely different coach when Kokoskov, means that you are more a fan of, like, let's say, more disciplined, more demanding head coach next to you?
Well, I like your question because it's a tricky question, and you're waiting for my answer. And
I'm not provoking you, but I
no,
mean
no, no,
that's
no, no.
the thing which
I
came to
know.
my mind. Yeah.
You know, it's a question that makes a lot of sense. I told you earlier that we never know all the answers. You know, I wish it was that easy. Uh, and and another thing is also to understand if something works or it doesn't work or it works just, let's say, 50% or whatever. Uh, Again, unfortunately, I keep repeating myself. I got bad habits because of Obradovic. So, and Obradovic could not be the term of comparison again as the situation was developing. So, we shared last year how we decided to think out of the box. And actually, we even share with our friend Polios and in Kaunas how to be creative and think out of the box. And I have to say that, and after Igor's, it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that Igor is not coaching anymore, that he left, he went back to the States. But I have to say that there were things that we were, really appreciative of what he brought. It was a good, let's say, coaching experience. Of course, he was good, very good in certain things, and very different in other things. And again, we thought that probably at the end of the day, looking at the option that we had in July, Sasha was also the best combination of personality, a certain degree of aggressiveness in the approach, more discipline, like you mentioned. Again, you try to bring in as many possible elements that you think can be of help in managing, the situation that you are putting together. But again, we would have to analyze Igor's season in order to understand better, let's say, the upcoming season. And again, I want to say it that Igor brought a lot of good things to the picture. And again, and I'm not just, it was, let's say, it was really an innovative effect in the way we work, and we did a lot of things. But on the other hand, he was also very NBA, in his approach to how to manage a group on the court and off the court, because that's what he has been doing for 20 some years, forever, So, and sometimes we realize that, especially at the top level of competition, you need probably more, as I said before, more aggressiveness or more discipline or more of something. But we cannot underestimate what Igor brought to the picture and the quality of a lot of things that he brought to us as an organization.
Guys, just a quick reminder, URBONUS is available on all major streaming platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and so on. Just write URBONUS in the search bar and make sure to follow us so you don't miss out on our future episodes. Also, don't forget to visit basketnews.com, where you will find the latest European basketball news and exclusive content. Asking this, I'm trying to, let's say, to find an answer, which is probably impossible at this moment because we didn't have enough examples. But I'm thinking about NBA mentality coaches in Europe. And as, for example, Zeljko recently said that NBA doesn't like European coaches. So that bridge is really hard, to get to the NBA from Europe. But here in Europe, we also still having some experiments with NBA style of coaches. And we already had some experience with Kokoskov, with Rick Pitino. As I mentioned, currently Martin Schiller is working with Žalgiris. I'm just thinking if that kind of mentality change is going to succeed in Europe. I mean, if NBA coaches might be successful in Europe.
Well, I think that there is not an answer. I perfectly understand Zeljko's comments. We shared in the past that, how the NBA system is. So it's not simple for them, the way that they are, organized and play, to give, let's say, full command to a European coach or an international coach. It's not simple. But I think there will always be the possibility for, let's call it, a technical interchange, or for people to stay on one side, come and work on this side, go back to the other side, but maybe not let's say not we would all not in the situation that we would dream of. We don't understand, as Europeans, we don't understand why Zeljko was never a head coach, or Messina, or some of the top coaches. But once that you get into the, let's say, when you get overseas, you understand why this is not exactly an option in the way the business is being run. But I think it's always helpful to have this sort of, let's say, technical interchange, to have coaches when they have an opportunity to come. Of course, you need to bring the right support. Ironically, I'm saying ironically, Igor left, but Erdem Can now is an assistant coach in Utah. And I think Erdem Can is an excellent coach. And I think that when he's going to come back to Europe, he will bring something new and something better, not only to his CV or his career, but also to whatever place he's going to be coaching at. And I think we need to be open to this possibility. I mean, as I said before, we had plus and minus in the experience with Igor this year, but we were ready to go and keep building on the choices, on the plans, on, just like, again, we just talked about Kaunas with their coach. I mean, it's important to be open to this, let's say, possibility of growth through new ways of running, the basketball business, not just on the court, but also off the court. I mean, opening to the best practices in the world is never a bad thing to do. Then, of course, we need to be smart enough to adjust to the situation that we're managing, and understand quickly if that works or if it doesn't work. But, I want to say something very unusual, but when the news spread around that Igor was going back to the States, I would say that the 2, 3, 4 NBA coaches immediately called to make themselves available. So that tells you that it's a basketball community. Okay, we are one oceans away from each other, but they're all watching very, very carefully what's happening and the value of the experience. And I'm telling you, the phone calls were quality people. So, but then again, you need to understand the moment that you're living as a club, the issues that potentially you can have. In our case, our situation was also a very particular situation. End of July, new team already built. It's a lot of factors coming in. Plus, we had an opportunity to go for Sasha, and we were comfortable to make this decision.
And you also mentioned very interesting and very important moment. Like working with Zeljko was a big privilege, but at the same time, he sets the bar so high that sometimes you might have some problems judging the other people, judging the other coaches, other basketball minds. And I have a very long question for this one, because I made some calculations of your job in Fener, and these 2 consecutive summers were with, let's say, with the most of roster changes, including players departing the team or arriving to the team. And in the last 2 consecutive summers, you made the most changes since 2015 and 2016. And what is interesting, it was like maybe 20, 30 years ago when you had 3 different coaches in 15 months. And I'm trying, to understand, maybe to ask you this. Do you still, let's say, kind of look for the identity of this team after trying to rebuild after Zeljko's era? And how do you how did you try to find that foundation which you want, to build up for the future?
Well, I don't want to question your numbers because I know that you are very good at, studying the records. But I don't want to say it's Zeljko's fault because he, like you said, he always sets the bar too high for everybody. But I think you have to consider other aspects too that are not necessarily technical aspects. What I'm saying is we had the need to turn page, and the need was also based on the fact that we were trying to give a different dimension to our business of basketball. So we had to make a different plan, and the different plan, consequently brought to having to make some decision on key players because we were heading to a different dimension of our business. So that also impacted the technical decisions. So that's one element to keep in consideration. Of course, you try to be consistent. When Zeljko and I started working together at Fenerbahce, and I know these numbers because I had a presentation this morning, not because I was ready for your podcast, but season, was the end of the 13-14 season. And up to that time, we had played in the EuroLeague for 13 years. Our winning percentage as Fenerbahce was 45.8, and we never made Final Four. And the most we got was twice we got to the top 8 in all these years. With Zeljko arrival, we made the plan very, very clear because at the end of the day, you need to have a plan, create the path to reach your goal, and as you anticipated, which is very important for me, is have a philosophy, the values of your organization always have to reflect your working philosophy in all the choices that you're trying to make. And between 13 and 14 and 15 and 16, out of 16 players, only 2 were left on the roster. And throughout Zeljko's time in Fenerbahce, our winning percentage jumped to 75%. We had 1 EuroLeague title, 3 EuroLeague finals, 5 consecutive playoff appearances. So that was the result of that, let's say, turnover that it was necessary to, let's say, try to reach the goal that we at the beginning decided in the initial sharing. Okay, this is our goal. This is how we want to share. This is how we want to get there. We need more toughness, more aggressiveness, more athleticism. We want to go this way, and these are the decisions. Then we had more changes to make in a different time, dictated by, Zeljko's departure. I wasn't myself even sure of what I was going to do, let's say, in my life, because at that point I want to see young executives, moving forward. Not so there was a time of hesitancy, but the major thing was understanding the moment, understanding the option, and the fact that we wanted to give a different dimension to our business of basketball. I think this was the original idea of, the problem is why so many changes? Very, very simple. We had to build a team with a new coach last year, basically at the end, in July, with the coach in the bubble, with the market already, let's say, without too many options, and we had to rush to just put, let's say, a picture together. This year, we had the time to plan things, to do things, but ironically, the coach left at the end of the process. So we had to make changes to somehow adjust a picture that we were working on for the past 24 months. But again, I also believe that if you are a good, let's say, manager, for as much as you want to give stability to what you have, you need to be ready to evaluate your picture and possible changes all year around. But I am, let's say, maybe we share the same vision. I don't like a lot of changes. I want to make the changes that fit in my as a club, our philosophy, our plan, our vision, what we are trying to accomplish. And that's this year called for changes, and we have to go for changes.
Yeah, and how far this team right now is from the picture which you want to see? I mean, as you said, all these like first 2 years with Fener also required many changes. Is it fair to say that now this team is closer what you want to see on the court?
I would say yes. Let's say the plan is more complete, but again, in the past it was much easier to have definite answer, to make long-term planning. Today is much more of a, it's a much shorter planning period. You need to be available you need to be ready to make adjustments all the time, because maybe, someone calls from overseas, hey, we take your player, or hey, somebody becomes an opportunity and you need to be ready. I believe in let's call it a working philosophy, quality people, certain characteristics, possibly, versatility as being a quality. I like to have versatile players who can play more than just one position. I like, at least an average degree of athleticism, because athleticism is important. I like team players in terms of approach, in the sense that I don't like, selfish players who don't care about the group, who don't care about being team players. At the end of the day, the concept that you sell to the players is always the same. You are your own company. You need to take care of yourself, because it's your own company. You need to be, very, very cautious and work for your success of your own company, because the success of your company brings the success of the big company, and the big company is the club. Everybody needs to have the same approach. So we always want to sell to the players how important is we, working together, thinking together, being together. This is also on the court, off the court, is a very important value to sell as an organization. And again, on paper, these are all very nice concepts, but then you need to translate in reality. Sometimes, you're lucky. Sometimes, it falls in place. Sometimes you need to be ready to make adjustment, because what you planned on is not exactly what it turned out to be. And you have to be ready to adjust. That's very important.
Talking about projects, Zeljko Obradovic is not only your former coach, but he is also a good friend of yours. And he started a new project with Partizan. What in general you think about his decision? I believe you talk to each other a lot, and how he feels about this project. How curious you are, about this project, since you're a big European basketball fan.
Well, Zeljko cannot stay away for too long from coaching, because coaching is his life, and I think he made a very interesting decision, and a very, intriguing decision by going back to his to his first club. And I think he's going to surprise people. He's going to surprise people because they put together a good group of players, and they have a very, very special coach, very unique coach. So that the quality of those players would multiply, and they have players who can really impact the game at the Euro Cup level and at the ABA League level. So I'm very curious to watch Zeljko in action this year. I have no doubt of the results because he's very, very special. I can almost bring as an example when he came to Benetton in a very similar situation, and Benetton was not Real Madrid where he was coaching the year before, but Benetton became a different kind of challenge, both on the Italian league scenario and on the Saporta Cup scenario, to the point that we won the Saporta Cup. So the Saporta Cup is today's Euro Cup, so I don't want to say anything because otherwise but it's just as an example. He loves the challenges, and I'm sure he will, he will be a very, very, challenging team for everybody. I mean, he has the potential to bring Partizan back to the main European stage. I mean, I think they really brought a good quality group of guys together with a lot of potential. And again, they also gave Zeljko the adrenalinic approach of the challenge, and so Zeljko perfectly understands the challenge on the table right now, and I think this is the condition that he likes most. Having the quality to fight through the last step of a competition. So I think it will be very exciting to follow Partizan this year.
When Zeljko took time off after Fenerbahce, tell me, what was your vision? What was your idea? What kind of where Zeljko will end up after this time off? Because now I believe you're happy because at least he's not facing you in the EuroLeague. He's now in the Euro Cup, and let him to be the Euro Cup his kingdom. But what were you thinking? Where Zeljko is coming back after that 1 year break?
Zeljko, we said it before. I mean, Zeljko is so unique that he would be a nightmare for any opponent, not just for us, because it's, again, on the other hand, he's so special that he deserves a special situation to work in. And at the end of the day, Partizan was a very, very special place for him to be, and sentimentally, technically, and as a potential of a plan. Zeljko, I think, enjoyed in the year off the possibility of recharging, also due to the, funny times that we are in. But he definitely watched a lot of basketball. I remember that the conversation we had, once in a while, he was always more updated than me. That tells you, he really follow. He loves basketball. I mean, he's, there is no way that he can stay away from having a basketball and teaching the game. Of course, a culture is very special and he demands a very special place. But again, I think we all needed him back. I mean, it's not just EuroLeague or Euro Cup or Champions League or whatever. I mean, basketball needed Zeljko to be back on the stage because he's one of the true few legends that we have. And the other day, I told him a couple of days ago when we talked the last time, and I said, I miss you so much that I even watched Partizan TV the other day when they show you 7 minutes of your coaching on the court, because I missed that coaching for so long. And he starts, laughing, but again, is a presence that we all need and we all benefit from, whether it's on your side or on the opposing side, because the growth of the game, the popularity of the game, the quality of the game improves with people of this type. Very simple.
And talking about the growth of the game, as an ambassador of the international basketball, probably you should be very happy to see like Nikola Jokic becoming the MVP of the NBA season, Giannis becoming the NBA Finals MVP, then with Luka making the All-NBA first team. And I wanted to ask you, I know that you it's tough to be more updated in basketball than you, as you mentioned about Zeljko, because I know that you wake up early in the morning to watch NBA games, then you have all these Fenerbahce things to do. And I believe you also, followed this NBA season. I just wanted to ask you, how do you feel watching these new generation stars like Doncic, Jokic, Giannis, and how would you compare them with the best older generation international players, starting from, for example, Nowitzki, Tony Parker, Pau Gasol, to Sabonis, Dražen Petrovic, or Toni Kukoc?
Well, that makes me feel very old, because I've seen all this generation, of incredible players. I think the one thing we can say at the end of the day is that we're talking about unbelievable players through all these generations, but what's happening today is a tribute to the improved impact that international basketball has on the NBA. What I'm saying is, if you look at this generation, at this period of times, today's international players are impacting the game in the way that nobody else did in the past. And this, I think, what we can take out of today's picture. NBA has grown so much globally that the heroes of today's game are truly global heroes. And we would have never thought to have an MVP, an MVP coming from Serbia the same year that a Greek player dominates the NBA Finals, and that a Slovenian player is probably the next model of the basketball generation around the world. I mean, it was totally unthinkable when I start watching NBA, and the first international players only generated some let's say smile, like it's not possible. I remember where Phoenix brought in Georgi Glouchkov from Bulgaria, and they said, hey, there is no way international player can impact the game. Instead, all the names that you listed as an example gives the idea of how much international basketball impacts NBA today. But on the other hand, it's also a tribute of how successful the NBA business can be globally because of having so many basketball ambassadors around the world, so many examples for young generation, for any kid around the world who starts playing basketball. And this is the beauty of the game. But again, going to your question, it's amazing what's happening today. It's amazing that we are enjoying this international flavor at the very, very, very top level of the NBA.
We're 1 month away from the new EuroLeague season, and just your short take, where we are right now in the EuroLeague basketball, what kind of challenges we're facing, besides, of course, Corona crisis, which consequences we still, we still experience?
Well, I think we were very clever at completing last season the way we did, and I think we need to hope not only to do the same this year, but also to start having, physical participation to our game and start getting some feel back of what having fans means for our game, because fans are very important for our game, extremely important. I'm expecting a very, let's say, balanced, very exciting season, just like the one we went through. We have, again, on paper, we have many teams that can, think to have a chance today to, let's not just say playoffs, let's just say let's say not say Final Four, let's say playoffs. I think at the end of the day, all the teams are thinking that they can have a chance to make the playoffs. You don't see one team much stronger or one team much weaker, which is very good for the quality of the competition, and it's very good for the fans to follow it up. So again, the powerhouses are always the same, but more than ever, it's going to be a very unpredictable season.
Am I right that it's going to be your 41st season in basketball?
I don't like numbers. I don't know if it's 41 or 42. It depends how you read it, but...
because last year you mentioned it's going to be your 40th season.
Yeah, I think then it's 41. My first season was 81 as a GM. Was 81, 82. So you make the calculation. But I think should be 41. But that's... let's not talk about these numbers. These are not the numbers to discuss. But let's enjoy.
That's an experience to discuss, and in one way it's a huge advantage, but at the same time, probably so challenging to advance with the new generation, with the new technologies, with the new kind of basketball, both on and off the court. And especially when you remember that, years ago you were signing players from the United States just looking from the picture of, NCAA magazine and just trying to figure out if, he's higher than 2 meters or he's 196, something like that. And my last question is, if you would have that power, what basketball processes, what kind of things you would like, to change back? What went wrong with basketball which you don't like?
I cannot say technology, because technology helps so much. Sometimes when I try to explain that I got started and there was no cell phone or no computer, people don't think I'm joking, because they think that it was always like this as it is today. But that was not the case. I think technology is very important, but I would like to leave too many things today. I think are, I would say, too sophisticated in a certain way. I think there has to be a human factor in everything we do, or every situation that we evaluate, that can still impact all the decisions that we make. Sometimes numbers are becoming too important. Sometimes, studying of the numbers are the key for many decisions. But just like when you try to evaluate the player, I think we need to still have the patience to dig more inside a player's personality, to spend the time of, let's say, have some sort of personal sharing, to understand that no matter how quick and how deeply the business develops, the human factor in making good decisions is always important. So let's never take everything for granted. I mean, based on numbers and technology or whatever the developments of the business brings. Let's always keep, let's say, that human factor as the leading factor in everything we do. That's probably what I would, consider at the end of the day.
It was a lovely conversation, Mauricio. Thanks for joining the podcast. Best of luck for Fenerbahce in the upcoming season. And I hope that we all enjoy, it with fans in the stands and high-level basketball on the court.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to share basketball. And again, let's all enjoy the best possible season. Thank you.
That's all, folks. Please subscribe the Basket News YouTube channel, and you can also find URBONUS podcast on all major streaming platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks again, and see you later.